All right, everybody. Steve back with TK Supplies, and today we are going to talk about a topic that a lot of us discuss. We don't always know the details around it, and that is caps. And believe it or not, you use caps every single day. You've got them probably upstairs in your kitchen or your bathroom right now. We're going to talk about the three most common caps. One term that we hear a lot is CT. So, Josh, maybe if you can tell us a little bit more about what CT stands for and where you see them at, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So CT, pretty simple, stands for continuous thread. So, I mean, that's a standard screw cap. It just threads onto the bottle and you thread it off, in reverse, righty tighty, lefty loosey, like we all use all day, every day for most products. The most common example I use for this with people is when you're a kid growing up, we all have bubbles, right? That is a 38 millimeter continuous thread cap on a bottle of bubbles. Some other common CTs would be things like some of your vitamins and supplements, spices, seasonings, a lot of food ingredients. Obviously, you can get into more technical thread design, but pretty much your one turn on, one turn off cap that we all know and love is a continuous thread CT closure.
So when I first started getting into this, Josh, I was hearing stuff like what you said, like 38-400 CTs or Argus Lock, CRC, stuff like that. I know you just said CT is kind of like the most common cap out there. How do you know when you need something different than just a CT?
Yeah, so usually a lot of times, at the end of the day, it all depends on the bottle. So if you're, the bottle usually dictates the cap. Now, sometimes the cap will dictate the bottle, but people when they're going through a project, they usually start with the bottle first, and then they find a cap that fits. But outside of that, it'll come down to things like safety, any type of specific regulations, product requirements. And that's all based on what is actually being packaged in the bottle. The bottle plus the cap with the contents is the final package. So if it's a simple dry product, food ingredient, like a personal care item, a CT cap is usually the common option there. But you start talking about, you get into different chemicals, obviously pharmaceuticals, products that need additional protection, whether that's protecting the contents inside from the external environments or protecting the external environment from the content inside. That's when other closure styles will come into the conversation.
Josh, I feel like there's, we throw around the term CT a lot, but I feel like there's different styles of CTs, like ribbed versus smooth. Can you explain a little bit of the difference between those?
Yeah, for sure. So typically you get, the cap has three parts to it. The inside of the cap, where the threads are and the liner, and then you have the outside sidewall, which will be, most of them are ribbed. You'll hear the term fine ribbed. That's a big one. But there are a lot of smooth options out there, which is exactly that. They're just perfectly smooth. That's more a lot of cosmetics, things that don't require like a lot of off torque to back it off of there. Something might be sitting on your bathroom counter, you're opening it up in the morning, closing it, type of thing. And then on the top, as far as the top of the cap is referred to as the deck. So the deck of the cap can usually or either be smooth or matte. Okay. So if it's smooth, obviously it's smooth. If it's matte, that's when you just got a little bit of texture to it there. And then the determination on that would be if you were wanting to decorate the top of the cap, clearly you'd want a smooth surface if you're going to print something on it or try to stick a label onto it, or otherwise a lot of caps. And again, some people don't care. They just want caps that work. So for the most part, 99% of what we're stocking in that CT world is a FR, MT, ST, which is fine rib, matte top, smooth side, or sorry, I said that wrong. It is a CT and it is fine ribbed with a matte top.
Okay. Yeah, it's CT is one that I feel like we hear and we see a lot of. Like I tell a lot of people, they ask me, well, what do you do for work? I'm like, well, I sell caps. And then they laugh. And then I say, your vitamin jars or your cosmetics, it's All of those have caps,
Right.
and a lot of them are CTs. So that's
Yeah, go count how many caps you have in your house.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I bet it's
Really?
well over 100. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So that kind of takes us right into the next one, which is probably one of the top 3 most popular caps, which is child-resistant caps, and that's become a lot more important to me as I've had children and appreciated the features. Can you explain that a little bit more? CRC caps.
Yeah. So CRC, child-resistant closure. It's exactly what it says it is. It is a closure that will not let a closure that has been tested that will not let a child open it. So there's, everything you would picture in that scenario, a room full of kids given these packages, trying to get them open. That's exactly what they go through. They bring in, the test people to do this. So these CRCs have been tested so that a child cannot open them. And a lot of that's determined on a person's strength to push down the bottle and the cap. So typically what you have with the CRC cap is it's actually 2 caps. So they're going to cost more than a CT cap. So a CRC is almost like you take a CT and you put another bigger CT over the top of it, and the smaller one snaps in. That's what screws onto the bottle. That's the first piece. So that actually has the threads in it. And then the outer, so you have the inner, which we just talked about, and then the other part's called the outer. That's snapped over the top of that in manufacturing, and then that's what you actually have to push down and turn, as most of them will say, push down and turn. In bilingual, usually English or French. And then some of them will just be pictorial. They'll have just a picture that with an arrow and the circle twist design on there, so you can see what you're supposed to do. So that it's just that for the most part, push down and turn. That's the most common CRC closure. There are some I know some people would be mad at me if I didn't mention the thumb lock CRCs. That would be just a single CT style cap that actually has a little tab that kind of sticks out, and it's got a little piece of plastic to hold it in place. And you have to turn that past a lug that's built into the bottle. It clicks past it. You can't turn it back without squeezing that tab out of the way to get the cap off of there. So again, all of these, are manufactured with the thought of safety in mind, right? So we're talking, antifreeze, obviously that's a big one. It's intriguing. It's a neon liquid. Kids would want to mess with. I know I would when I was a kid. So we got to keep them safe from that. And then a lot of your vitamins, pharmaceutical pills, different things like that, obviously have CRCs. Windshield washer fluid's a big one as well. And pool chemicals are another one. So just like I said, in the CRC world, it's typically you're protecting the outside from the contents for the most part. So prescription medicines, vitamins, nutraceuticals, a lot of household and industrial cleaners.
So, Josh, you said in the beginning, it's been tested with kids and it makes it to where they can't open it. But there's a reason it's called child resistant cap and not proof cap, right?
Right. Correct. Yeah. So the idea overall is you want to, the package, it should significantly reduce the likelihood of some type of accidental access by a kid. Nothing's important or nothing is perfect, but the CRCs are important. It's a safety feature, for so many products out there that help keep everybody safe. And a lot of that too, I'll just add, is they're also, the other side of that is there's a senior friendly part of this as well. So you can't make something so hard that a kid can't open it, but also so hard that an older person can't open it either. So there's a lot of balance there. And you'll see a lot of different caps coming out into the market now that are soft touch, easy grip CRCs. The outside, the outer's bigger, so you can get your whole hand on it. Things like that. So just keeping the kind of the general public in mind as they design a lot of these things. You've seen a ton of improvements, in that area over the years.
Right. Yeah, it's like we said with the CTs. When you keep your eyes open for it, you would be shocked how many of those bottles that are on. Like there's just CRC caps all over the place. It's a really cool design when you think about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that ultimately leads us to our last one for today: Tamper Evident caps, which it feels like sometimes in my mind I get that confused with CRC. So Josh, what's Tamper Evident? Can you walk us through that?
Yep. No, and that's a kind of a common misnomer, especially in our business. I always ask when somebody calls, I need a CRC for this product, and I'm like, what are you packaging? It's like motor oil. Okay, well, you really need a Tamper Evident cap, not a CRC. And again, the main differentiating feature there is, if you have a child resistant cap with a heat seal liner, you could put that on a bottle that had motor oil in it, and yes, it would be evident if someone tampered with it because of the heat seal liner. And there's like counterfeiting and things like that you have to worry about, and with some of those products. But with other products, you certainly don't need to have child resistant packaging on something that the world or the industry has deemed is not requisite to keep it away from children. So motor oil is a great example of that. The same cap that is on most of your bottles of motor oil in the United States is very, very, very identical to the same cap that is on a bottle of Diet Coke or a 2 liter of Pepsi. Same functionality. There will be some packaging engineers that would tell me, yeah, they're not even close to being the same cap, but for all intents and purposes, what we're trying to convey, it's the same idea. That's what most people are familiar with. So I always call it a tamper indicating cap, just because I think you can refer to the tamper indication that it provides. But in the general scheme of things, people refer to it as a TE cap. So what that is, and also a huge use for TE caps that we would all be familiar with as well, is bottled water. Mm-hmm. That does have, that's got that on there. So what it's telling us is you're not worried about protecting the contents of that bottle of water from the outside world. It's not going to hurt anybody if a kid opens it or whatever. No big deal. But what it is telling you is this has not been tampered with, i.e. it has not been opened prior to you opening it, which we are concerned about just from a biosafety side of things, and making sure nobody's messing with something you're going to put in your body. A lot of that, like I said, motor oil is a huge one, but a lot of the tamper indication stuff comes through food. That tamper indication function on a cap, like a motor oil cap or a water bottle cap or Gatorade or apple juice. So what you have is you have a cap that's molded with the band around the bottom, and then typically it goes through a machine that slits that cap just enough that the band stays together, and it's got little tensile things inside that hold it in place so it doesn't break apart. But and then that cap, once it's screwed on, the bottle has to have a ring or a lug of some sort that engages the TE band portion to create the functionality you want. The cap's screwed down properly all the way with enough torque. It locks in place. When you screw that cap, you can't see my hands, when you screw that cap back off of there, then it breaks that band, and you can hear that clicking or crunching when it comes apart. The band stays on, the cap separates. That that it has not been tampered with before. So, and motor oil, I will say this too. This is kind of an interesting thing. So, like for a Mountain Dew bottle, when you take the cap off, the TE band stays on the bottle. For motor oil, when you take the cap off, the TE band will actually snap and should come off with the cap. Yeah. The reason is so you don't dump that cap into your manifold, or you don't pour it into your manifold and then the TE band falls into the motor. So,
man, I cannot tell you how many times my mom has ripped a Diet Coke, and I've heard that little cracking sound when she
Right.
twists it off. I mean, it's so crazy that we've all just come so like accustomed to it, and it's like it's provided me with like I remember we couldn't even bring a water bottle into school, and like the teacher had to like sit there, and you had to like they had to listen for that cracking sound on the Tamper Evident cap for us to even be able to bring it into school. Yeah. So can a cap be both child resistant and tamper evident?
You can. So a lot of them will combine like as multiple features, is how I would say it. So there are some CRC caps that have a TE band on them. What I would say for you is that's not the most common cap in the world. The big one that we get requests for is cough medicine. So a lot of your cough medicines, they'll have a TE band on the bottom of a child-resistant closure. It's probably about the most technical cap you'll have without getting into venting and different things like that. But what that does, obviously, is it allows for you to make sure that product has not been tampered with, but then it also has the child-resistant functionality and the resealability, with the CRC two-piece cap. So once but you get it out every 6 months, and then you're still safe. But once you brought it home and opened it up and it's in your medicine cabinet, then there's nothing you have to worry about from the tampering side of things.
Right. So Josh, that's a great overview of those three caps. Obviously there's a lot of other style caps out there. We're not going to cover them all today, but one thing I was thinking about, if you are watching this video, unless you are
and you're still awake,
and
you're watching this,
unless you're fascinated by our incredible backgrounds, you are probably looking for some type of cap, or you're trying to learn about caps because that's part of your job. How can TK Supplies help with that?
Yeah, so I mean, that's like the biggest thing we do, and it's it's all day, every day, phone calls, emails, text. I mean, that's just the general flow of business for us. So we have people calling, two types of customers, right? The one that knows exactly what they want, and they're just calling and saying, hey, I need item XYZ, and they have all the specifics, and that's awesome. But the other type of customer is a customer who I prefer to deal with, because it's not just the same transactional thing, is somebody who not necessarily has a problem, but has a question that we can help answer. And that's, we have been doing this for a long time, and these types of things come up every day. I'll get a phone call. Hey, I'm packaging this, or I have this new product. What do you think we should use? And again, I said this in the last video, we're not going to warrant anything from a liability standpoint. That is not our job. We can suggest multiple different items to test. And obviously we put the onus on the customer to do the testing and make sure everything's, hunky-dory before they move forward with anything. But what we can do, we can run through questions like, what do you have the bottle picked out? Are you currently using a bottle and a cap and combo that's not working, or is this an altogether new product? Do you have the material safety data sheet? That gives us a ton of information that we can use. So like, what's the product? Is it liquid or is it dry? Is it like a powder? Do you know if you need child resistance or not? I'm not going to tell you, but it's helpful to know. And if you don't know, we can direct you towards the people that can actually, provide that information for you. So if you need child resistance, then, do you need tamper evidence on top of that? And if you do, what type of tamper indicating properties do you need? Do you need a TE band? Are you fine with just a heat seal? If you don't need it, are you fine with foam? Is a foil liner, still something you're interested in? All those different things. And then kind of take all that, put it together, look at the bottle piece of it, make sure everything matches, with engineering drawings, analyzing those. And then we'll probably ask some questions about how are you filling it? Do you have a capping machine? Are you doing these by hand? There's a lot of different variables there, but we can definitely take all those things and put them together and try to narrow it down into some options for you. And that's with TK being a stocking supplier, with emphasis on the stocking side of it is, okay, I have this, I'm filling windshield washer fluid. I have these gallon round bottles that I buy from, manufacturer XYZ, and I don't know which cap I want. Well, perfect. I literally have 16 to 20, probably 15 to 20 different versions of the same type and kind of cap that I could send to you, and you could try all 15 of them. You don't have to call 15 different manufacturers. You don't have to go through this process to find all these different options and try to learn all this stuff along the way. Like, we can be that one-stop shop. We send out extremely well-labeled samples. Everything's organized well. You can lay them all out with your bottle, screw them on, and you're like, yeah, okay, this one, and this one worked really well. Okay, do they check all the boxes? Yep. I think we got what we need. Let's take those. Now let's look at, on top of that, we'll get into like, okay, do you need 5 million or do you need 5,000? Because there might be a different scenario where one cap makes more sense than the other because of cost and quantity and things like that. And how soon do you need them? Okay, we have these in stock. These, we'd have to order or whatever. So we really try to take all those pieces of information and sort of funnel it down to give you, the best product possible. And in that sense, I always tell people it's like buying a car, man. You go to the car lot, there's 75 different cars out there. But honestly, at the end of the day, there's one that makes the most sense for you. It has what you need. You like the usage, the fit, form, and function of it. And then at the end of the day, affordability or the financial side comes into it as well. So we're not naive to that. And we always want to try to make sure somebody's going to be happy with that cap, for as long as they're using it. So that's our goal on the sales side.
Yeah. So, because I mean, if I were somebody who didn't know much about caps for the bottles or the bottle that I need to fill and cap for it, man, I'd be heading to ChatGPT, Google, YouTube University, stuff like that, feeling like I gotta know all of this before I even come to you. So, like, are you saying people don't even need to do that before they do they need to have any prior knowledge before they come to you at all? Or
I mean, that is not required by any means. And it happens all the time. And I'll be honest, there's a couple situations, I'm not gonna name names, but I literally know 2 customers right now that came to me years ago, and they're like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? And I helped them through that whole scenario of what we just talked about. And one of those specifically, you will find at Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, everywhere now. They're really an industry leader in that the drain cleaner side of things there. And another one of them is a food product that is a national brand now that's on TV. And so we see those products, I see them every morning. When I flip on the news, you'll see that commercial come across. And it's really cool to see that. And it's reassuring to know, you get good people together. It doesn't matter, I don't care what you know. If you know everything you need, that's awesome. If you don't, ask us. That's where the whole Ask TK thing came into play. And I mean, I just tell people, don't ever stop don't be afraid to ask us. Don't feel like you're bugging us. Like every question, we can garner a little bit more information out of that, whether you think so or not, when you're asking it, to just kind of get it tailored so you get, the exact product that you need.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's awesome. Josh, how many caps does TK have in stock?
Right now, I think this morning we had 273,400,000 and some thousand caps in our warehouse. That's a lot.
It's a lot of caps.
There's got to be one out there for you.
Right. Absolutely. And that's I say that because we call ourselves the king of caps, and this is a short little video that covers 3 caps, and it's not nearly long enough to cover all the different caps that we have in our warehouse. But kind of like Josh talked about, Nate, is ultimately, you may have questions. There's a lot of things that feels confusing, but caps don't have to be confusing, and that's what we're here for, and that's what Josh said. Our slogan is Ask TK. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask us, and we've got new content that's coming out every single week covering caps, liners, bottles, all the different things that you may run into. So any closing thoughts, guys?
Go to our website too. There's a ton of information on there. We spent a lot of time, here in the last 6 months, getting that where it needs to be and kind of tweaked to be able to service people. So that's a good place to start, and then give us a call from there.
Yeah, and seriously, like you guys said, ask TK. As like much as we use caps every day, like I know I would have never thought of like the size and specific cap that I would need for like my specific product that I'm using. So if you got questions, just ask.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Josh and Nate. And if you have questions, ask TK. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Let's do this again soon.